Welcome to our first session, Selling Solutions in 2024, our weekly Automation in Action podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about specifically software solution sales. Today, we have our Director of Sales from our Solutions Division, Jeff JMac McCallion. We're going to be covering things that have evolved over time. Certainly selling solutions in 1999 as it relates to ECM and paperless office is a huge difference from selling workflow automation, sophisticated tools, RPA, IDP, chatbots, AI in 2024. So in today's discussion, we're going to be talking about how the getting started in technology sales is not for the faint of heart. There are many tech companies that boast about training and onboarding. Often new sellers are thrown to the wolves with little or no training and just a script and a headset. So we wanted to talk to Jeff today a little bit about why why PIF and specifically Jeff has been successful selling solutions for the last 15 years or so, and talk a little about the market. So welcome, Jeff. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Brent. I appreciate you having me.
Yes. So for starters, let's discuss this concept of working in a corporate environment versus a entrepreneurial environment. Can you provide some color based on your experience?
Yeah. So actually, I've done both. I've worked, in the Fortune 500 space, large, corporations, and obviously now at PIF, which is a smaller entrepreneurial type organization. And for me, and they're vastly different. The culture is extremely different. A smaller company like PIF, we have the ability to pivot on a dime. And we're truly a sales-led organization. I think one of the biggest differences when you work for a smaller organization opposed to the large corporate environment is it's really tough, to get action or a decision in a large corporation. And I think sometimes processes can get in the way and almost hinder sales. Where, we're here at PIF. I mean, if we need to, again, take action or get a decision from leadership, it can be done very quickly. And that really helps fuel the sales process.
Yeah, and I know you've worked for Rico and other Brightergy and some of these other larger corporations, as well as I have, Kodak, and, I see it as well. We're street fighters. We can get very nimble. We can do some commercial things that corporations just can't because they're just so myopic on policy and procedure. We're able to cut a deal that maybe is a loss leader, but then a little later, we make our money in the ARR, the annual recurring revenue model. We do a lot with leases that I don't see other people really doing. And somebody's fine selling $5,000 a year SaaS solution. We rather have that 6-year lease at $25,000, getting that in the first year. So talk to me about, I guess, what your approach was selling back in the day. Now, when I say back in the day, 2000s ish, circa 2000s, and what it is today, because I know it's a lot different.
It's very different. I mean, first of all, the customer is so much more informed and intelligent about what they're looking for. When I started selling document management solutions, you were really educating the client on the technology. And it was kind of exciting, scan, file, retrieve in document management. You really had to educate folks on the legality and the reasons why they needed the solution. Today, when you're talking to clients, they know what they want for the most part. But you really need to now explain how, you differ in the marketplace. And I would say this, it's also much more, I think, about the organization that's going to be there to service and support you. Because I think the technology can be commoditized to a large degree. So I think, again, I'll also talk about one of the benefits of working at PIF is we have the ability to do things to take care of our clients that sometimes it's tougher to do for a larger organization. You were getting to it, Brent, where you can make those one-off decisions that is a benefit for the client, even though you might take a little bit of a hit from a business perspective. But if you have the long-term, approach, it works.
Yeah, and I also see we're a lot more nimble as it relates to getting paper, right?
Yeah.
Signed orders, right? We can defer. We can use 90-day deferred leases. Try to leverage the lease as the copier industry has for many years, using dollar buyout. Those types of things, I think, make us quite a bit unique. Now, I guess I failed to kind of give the background as to PIF. Certainly, you could look on our website, but explain to me just kind of what you sell today. What's your typical go-to product? And as you mentioned, we used to sell scan just document management systems. Now, so what's our go-to market kind of product set? And I guess talk to me a little bit about how that allows us to penetrate some of these accounts that, again, scan, file, retrieve is not sexy anymore.
Right.
All the cloud players have it. So what makes us unique and compelling to the marketplace?
Yeah, I think the biggest advantage we have is, even though we're selling a horizontal solution, just as an example, AP automation is a real focus of us as an organization. But when we're talking to a specific industry, we take, I think, a very strong vertical approach. So while again, we're selling accounts payable automation across many markets, if we're in a manufacturing organization, as an example, we really, I think, come across as SMEs or subject matter experts when we're speaking to those individuals about their specific workflow. Even though it's very similar, the documents might be a little different, but it's very similar to the other organizations that we're in. And I've worked in other organizations. I would say we're just creative. We want to close deals. We're a sales-led organization, and we get creative. So our flexibility is significant.
And so, as part of that AP solution, typically we're bundling things in like IDP, intelligent document processing. That's usually the funnel to get documents into the system. We still use, to a large extent, document management as our BPM and our workflow and our container to store the document and execute workflows, and then RPA on the back end. Do you feel that the complexities of RPA and AI and machine learning compared to 1999, 2000, when we were selling scan, index, retrieve, is the sales process any different?
I think the biggest, to be successful, again, I'll go back to, you can't make it about the products, right? So you truly have to make it about the challenges that the client is experiencing. I think maybe historically, document management, it was more about the product because it was the functionality, ease of use, security, right? So you could differentiate yourself. I think today, the product, again, is almost irrelevant to a degree. It's really understanding the specific challenges that your customer's facing and talk about how, the technology will benefit them. So I do think it's changed in that aspect.
Yeah, and so us, we're listen, I've been in this industry 25 years, and I've seen a lot of salespeople come and go. There's very few people like yourself that have been successful over a large period of time. And I think a lot of that, and to that previous question, is really it's about the sales mechanics and the methodology. And I know, Bill Mirabli, who's our chief revenue officer, obviously somewhat of a mentor to all of us, teaches MedPick and Sandler, and we kind of amalgamate that all into our own model. But talk to us a little bit about what your sales process is and why you win deals.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we do have a process. I still approach every sales call the same way in my my checklist of how we want to approach the client with an upfront contract, as an example, which we're looking to get little initial buy-in from the client right off the start. but also it allows us to stay in control of the meeting. So, we've all been there where you get on a call and we're dealing with, type A, C-level individuals that want to kind of dominate the call. I think we do a really good job as a sales organization to take control back, and drive the conversation the way, we want it to go. So we do have a methodology. I think it is one of the things that makes us, very successful. But you're right, solution sales in general, we're not selling something that someone necessarily knows they need. We need to show them that they need it, right? Because they've been doing business, we say this all the time, they've been doing business a certain way for the last 50 to 100 years, and they've been successful. So why would they now leverage technology to become more efficient? So technology sales can be very challenging from that aspect, but also very rewarding.
Yeah, so I think the mechanics of our sales process is always, get on. We have a BDR team that generates the opportunity, a meeting, and then you basically do the upfront contract. We have this amount of time, and then it's not to show any type of product; it's to understand pain. And so we ask questions like, if you had a wand and wish list of 3 things that you could change, what would they be? And that starts a discussion where we try to quantify that pain and then be able to kind of show some visual concepts of that solution, right?
Mhm.
And then ultimately, it's the inevitable question: how much, right?
Yeah.
And so I think if we do a good job finding the pain and then quantifying it, because what's the use of finding the pain if you can't quantify it? And I think we do a really good job of that. So we look at pencil math, or napkin math, number of hours at what wage rate, what throughput, and then we come to, a particular. So I know we were working on a deal recently with, it's costing the customer around 5 hours a day to process, these inventory receipts, and our solution was about 80%, 20% less expensive than their current wage burden. And I guess, as it relates to the sales process, how critical is it to be able to quantify the pain and be able to be very consultative? Because I know a lot of companies want to rush into that demo, right? They want to show something right away. And I think we're a bit different in that regard. So talk to us a little about that actual cycle, that sales cycle.
Yeah, I mean, great point. And I think, I'll give you kudos. You always reinforce that as far as understanding the amount of time that the folks are performing these menial tasks, and then applying actual dollars to that, right? So then when you turn around and you show the investment to the customer, it becomes very clear what the ROI is, for them. I would say the other thing, just kind of jump back for a second too, that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we do really well as an organization, is we will qualify opportunities out as much as we qualify them in.
Right.
I don't know if I've ever worked for an organization that understands the value as much as this one, as of focusing on actual opportunities. And I think sometimes younger reps will cherish uh, opportunities that will never be a deal. And it's very clear that it'll never be a deal. So I think we do a good job of focusing our attention on actual opportunities. That's a good win for us and the customer. Um, so I just kind of wanted to mention that as well. But
Yeah.
again, back to, I think you really do need to equate a dollar value to the challenge that the customer faces, and then show, what the investment is. And then that gives them, if you can do an ROI under, typically 12 months, it becomes somewhat of an easier decision for the client.
And do you think, and again, it depends on the buyer. And I
Yep.
know we have a methodology to target progressive buyers, right?
Right.
People that want to do good, want to improve, not Betty, the, more mature, accounting manager or operations manager that's just never going to change. Clearly, technology means change. And labor is the biggest portion of that. So I get that. And what it really comes down to is need versus want, right? And we always it would be great to have that need all the
Mhm.
time. But like you said, people don't wake up and go, "Oh, I want to automate accounts payable today." Like maybe they saw something that triggered it, but there needs to be a pain, whether and there's a pain specifically around AP invoice just because the lack of labor in the market, turnover, the amount of repetitive tasks that happen there. So, how do you turn a want into a need? Talk a
Yeah,
little about that.
yeah, I mean, I think it's all about the discovery, right? And you can lead the client down the path, but you really need to pull that information out. I think very early in the process, because then when you're walking through the solution, you can link back, okay, this will be a benefit for you here. Is it turnover? Is it growth? Is it, we all know the challenges that you face inside the AP process, right? So but everyone's take might be a little different, and you really need to understand why that person is taking that meeting the first time. There has to be a reason why they're taking that call. So understanding that, and then I'll reiterate what you just said. It's the biggest thing I think is having a progressive buyer. It has to be someone that realizes, with an investment in technology, they can streamline the process. So that is critical.
And granted, we both work for PIF, but I would say that both of us have worked for many sales organizations, and I feel like here we're able to increase the velocity of deals. Like we're able to do one call closes. We're able to. I think it's harder now just with the technology stack and kind of the internet and the availability of so many different solutions, but it's still a relationship play. I still think that, and we've seen it. We've had customers that go to another job and then say, "Hey, I want to work with these guys because we're good at it." And I don't, there's very few organizations that don't have a name brand that are organically creating the lead gen, and we're able to actually close these deals really quickly. So, what do you like? If what do you think the traits are for a solution salesperson to be able to win at this game?
I really think, not to overuse because everyone will say this, but you have to listen. It's critical. The smallest thing will either make or lose you a deal in this field. And it is critical that you listen to what the client is telling you their pain is, or their perceived pain, and then you sell to that. And again, I would go back to, it's not about the software. The software at some level is irrelevant. I mean, you need you need solid technology, right? But a lot of times, to your point, Brent, about us being unbranded, I'll talk to people and they'll call it the PiF solution or the PIF solution. They don't even know what the software actually is, right? And we don't manufacture anything. We're just the VAR, the value-added reseller. But in their mind, it's the PiF solution. So I just think, being creative and asking tough questions. I mean, you have to be able to ask tough questions. Budget. And those types of things. And if you're not asking those questions, you'll just be left behind.
Yeah, and I see that a lot, right? So forecasting and to your point, you have to have an aggressive salesperson, someone that's pushy, that's is a self-starter, that's going to get on the phone, create a lot of activity. An old manager would always say the only thing you can control is activity. So if you're working hard and you're continually following up, I'd also say follow-up skills, right?
Follow-up skills. Yeah.
How many guys do we know that wouldn't have any sense of urgency
Yep.
in the sales process? But obviously there's momentum in the deal, there's timing in the deal. I think that's important. I also think, to your point, if you're listening, and I know you're overly analytic because when we forecast here, it's you can't not do med pick and forecast accurately. How do you know who the economic buyer is? How do you know what their decision process is? I'd be at other organizations. They're like, yeah, this is coming in. And I'm like, all right, well, do they have budget? Oh, I didn't ask that. Well, who's the decision maker? Well, it's this guy I'm working with. Well, is he the decision maker? And then what's the process for this dollar amount of a purchase, right? And regardless of whether you find the pain or not, you still have to manage that cycle, that sales cycle. And I think asking those questions, and they're not hard questions, they're just uncomfortable questions, right? And so you have to have that kind of capability to do that. And clearly, you have no problem doing that. I mean, that's what you're driven to do. So I understand that, and I actually, when we forecast, it's pretty accurate. Because we have a real good feeling and we have control. Again, we're not a manufacturer. We don't have to go through two partners to give a quote. We can give a quote right away. I know our management believes in us to be able to push pricing out. We don't have to get approval every time we
Right.
send right? So there's that entrepreneurial feel and the flow, so to speak, that I think, yeah, um, you know, I hate, JMac's known every once in a while to put a stinker in there, right? A deal that maybe, not at retail, but we jam it in there. And to your point, and maybe we sell 10 profitable deals and one semi-profitable deal. But our level of profitability is as it relates to solution sales is usually much higher than other like companies that are very stringent on their pricing. So talk to me about, like, I'm not saying it's wild west, but the ability for you to be very flexible in your ability to deliver quotes. And I know also certainly professional service is a big thing. We offer that as a fixed cost, and sometimes we just give that away. And I know other organizations are very strict on that. So, as far as we're concerned, revenue's revenue, and whether it's in this side or that side, it doesn't really matter. Some people find benefit in service, some don't, and so we have to tweak it. Talk to me about, like, being very creative in a deal. Give me an example of a deal where we had to be super creative to win, and really it was around the commercials.
Yeah, it's again, and we do work here, so but it's one of the benefits is senior leadership gives us the freedom. Once you've been here long enough, they give you the freedom. You know what it's going to take to get the deal. And I've given crazy terms where we've carried, I've given 6 months terms because I could tell there was some sort of budget issue. And one of the owners here says time kills deals, and it's so true. So again, I'll go back to listening to your example. I know the client had a grant for X amount of dollars, right? And they wanted to make the decision, but the grant didn't cover the entire purchase price. It was a global license that we were providing an organization. And they had some grant dollars that they had to spend. But there was still kind of that roadblock, and we just got creative with payment terms. I mean, we literally gave him, we took the deposit from the grant, which was a significant deposit, but then we gave them 6 months interest-free payments, to complete the transaction. You can't do that in a large organization. They just will
Right.
not give you the freedom to do that.
Yeah, we've held paper, on our, it's our professional service or whatever it is. We
Yep.
hold their paper, right?
Yep. Yeah, we've covered lease deals that an organization couldn't get funded, and we go to senior management and leadership and make a compelling reason that this is a good deal for the company, and they'll hold the lease paperwork. So just that ability to close business, and they trust. If you go in and say, I need to do this to win this deal, I've yet to be told we can't do it. I might get a slightly different version, but at the end of the day, they give us the creativity to win business.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, ultimately, I think many places I've been, it's a lot of fun. We do a lot of team building here, and I think overall the energy is great. And I think, when we win, we high five and we celebrate. I know, you have a beer on a Friday or a beer cart on Thursdays. Not that we're always drinking. I mean, there's certainly non-alcoholic stuff there, but we definitely have a culture of winning. I think we're more street fighters than opera opera singers or, ballet, where we're very mechanical. I think we shoot from the hip a lot. I know that we can get deals done in kind of crazy ways. Like a lot of people are still selling subscriptions. We don't want that. We
Right.
want perpetual license. We want the annual support. We bundle all that into a lease. We get that funded up front. So it's seen as a monthly OpEx expense versus a CapEx expense, but we get funded all up front. So AR and collections, we don't have to deal with as much. I think that's a unique piece to what we do. And also, like I know we did for a town, we did this enterprise licensing. Well, products really don't offer enterprise licensing. So we took the gamble to say, all right, we'll give you unlimited licensing. And, we would buy packages of licensing. And if they ran over, they would call and say, hey, I need more. And we would add more licensing. But for the most part, we get creative like that, where we can take a standard license and then forecast in our head whether we're going to get killed or not, and for the most part we don't.
Right.
And but in a lot of RFPs and different types of situations, you need to commercially bend to that particular client, right? And I think our ability to do that, large corporations, publicly traded, they can't bend that way. So I think we have a leg up on that. And I also think we have a leg up on thought leadership, right? I know, there's certainly the outliers, the people that, will always, scan paper and file in a file cabinet, or, there's always these kind of older processes. And as a technologist, I look at them like, that's so old. Why would anybody want to do that and pay for it? And there's still a lot of that out there. But I think we have a good cross section. So we serve to the document management community, which is, circa 1999 technology. And there's still a lot of low tech industries that sell that or that need that kind of, pick ticket, proof of delivery, and they're not on tablets and those types
Yep.
of things. And then there's that higher end customer that's, very much a technology company. They embrace the technology, and our ability to span both of those types of markets, I think, is what makes us, be able to fit and say yes to more things than no, right? I wouldn't say, PIF is one that says, "Oh, we only sell this what's on the truck." I think you've come to me with like, "Hey, I want to do GPS software, blah blah," and I'm like, "Oh my god, I don't know I'll figure it out though."
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, I guess, working at PIF, I mean, what exactly is compelling about what we do and would get, someone excited about working at PIF?
So I want to say two things. One, and I don't know if this is compelling or not, but one of the other reasons we're successful is there's no shade in this organization. We have a stand-up meeting every morning, and you can get called out on something. You talk about deals you're in. So there's no shade. In a larger corporation, sometimes you can skate, but there's no skating here. But I'm sorry, Grant. One more time, could you
Yeah,
just?
it was what exactly compelling
Oh,
about what we do to get someone excited? And clearly, Rico, whoever it is, there's people that just hide. And that's
yep,
to your point, right?
yep.
You can't hide here, right? There's too much visibility on you, which makes you a self starter, or you're not here.
Or you
We
right.
have top performers,
You get
right?
left behind. Exactly. The other thing I would say, though, the compelling thing about working here, and I tell every young salesperson that comes in, I promise them, and this is just a fact. You will learn more here relative to sales and how to sell in such a compressed period of time. It's unbelievable. I probably had 2 or 3 sales jobs before I came here. I'd been in sales maybe 10 years. I learned more in the first 18 months working here about sales and how to be successful in sales than I had in the previous 10 years. And I had gone through classes, and I had worked for large corporations, and I had gone away to training. It was so eye-opening to come here and truly work for a sales organization. So That's what gets me excited.
It's
I
very
still,
grassroots, right?
it
I mean, we're
100%.
like, this hands-on, it's not conceptual classroom learning. This is how to run a deal. And we have a lot of initiatives. I think that's the other thing that's pretty cool. Like we have right now initiative to convert all of our on-premise into the cloud. We have initiative in healthcare to focus on a specific vertical and talk track. I think our ability to package and monetize those things and then market in a lot of different ways, whether it's a podcast, I do posts, but our marketing team has done a great job with AdWords and PPC and SEO and
Yeah.
blog writing to be, zero page on Google. I think it's pretty cool how we can package these different initiatives and then drive those initiatives as a wedge. Because I think the traditional, when you were here in your first stint, back in early 2000s, we had a whiteboard called the demo board,
Yep.
and we had eight BDRs just pounding the phone,
Yep.
setting document management, and 10 and 2, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. You would physically go in the car
Yep.
to Maynard, Mass, or Springfield, Mass, or Ludlow, Vermont, or
If
wherever
it
it
was
was.
if it was within 3 hours, we were
You were
going.
driving, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's completely changed now.
Yep.
Clearly, we were selling hundreds of these ECM systems a year. Now that I would say is under 10.
Yep.
And the
And
focus is primarily on these bigger deals, right?
yeah, well, and I was going to say, Brent, back to your earlier point, I mean, it was not uncommon. Once a week, twice a week, you meet the person for 45 minutes and you walk out with a $25,000 check for that. Again, that blew me away when
That
I
blows my mind
it
because
was
one call closes. I've always tried because I've been similar kind of role, and it's
yep.
always hard to do that. But you and a couple other, I would see it all the time. You just come back with a sales order, and it's part of that whole indoctrination into
That's
PIF, really,
it was a
right?
mindset. It was a mindset because then you went in expecting to walk out with a check. So everything you did was just driving you. It was just not uncommon to say.
Attitude. It was attitude and
It was amazing.
expectation.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And your younger salespeople, I think the ones that are growing up today, all texting, nobody calls, everybody's online, I think these younger folks have trouble getting on the phone
Yep.
and, doing the mechanical type sales things you need to do to generate leads and opportunities. And I would say we struggle like anybody else finding leads, and
Right.
we do it in a number of different ways. You can't have a single thread on that, so that's why we have marketing and all the kind of lead gen we do there, but also the BDRs, the list management, how we pull personas from Zoom, how we load that into our CRM, how we're sending out emails, what is the messaging and the A/B kind of testing on that. So clearly, we're not doing one call close with six-figure AP deals. Those are longer sales processes.
Right.
So I think the nature of a younger salesperson who instant gratification due to the internet and electronics.
Good
I
point.
think right,
Yeah.
being able to outlast. And I wouldn't say that we have a lot of competition. The competition is usually somebody not doing anything.
Yep.
But as far as the length of the sales process and hunting leads and closing, customers on meetings, what's your feeling as to what the future looks like? Do you think it's going to get harder and harder? Do you think it becomes commoditized and it's just easier to sell, but it's a volume play? What do you see as the future for software sales?
Well, I think I think you said it earlier. Being a thought leader and thought leadership is critical, and I think the technology and I think what we're trying to do as an organization is leveraging the current tech stack that organizations have, right? So I think when you talk to IT directors and leaders, the last thing that they're looking to do is bring additional applications into support, right? So
Right.
I think having the ability to expand and leverage their current tech stack will be significant. Um, and I think just understanding, having folks that work for you that understand where the market is going, and being ahead of it. Because, I think we probably have, I don't know, maybe another couple of years if we, just stood pat, right? And we're selling the solutions that we currently sell and support. But technology has changed significantly even over the last 5 years, right? We were selling cutting edge IDC tools, intelligent data capture tools, that now just don't
Are
work. They
right.
just don't work for clients, So we're always trying to balance that and support them, but also provide additional value to the client, saying, hey, this is where the technology is going.
And certainly, as a pre-sales person and VP of technology and addressing the way that we go to market, we want to be thought leaders. We want to have something really neat and compelling to show
Yeah,
because at a the stuff we sold 7 years ago really is a Me Too product now, and there's a lot of those types of applications. As it relates to AP, you can go online and see build.com, and I'm not going to give a bunch of names because I don't want
right.
to give competition, but there's a lot of AP point solutions, and we go with a multi-point solution using ECM as kind of the underlying technology. So they can do AP, and then they can leverage the same investment to HR and contracts and other things, and that gives, I think, that's a good talk track for us because what ends up happening is that you can, the cost associated with all those processes can be spread out, and it's a more extensible solution, right, than having a specific AP solution, a specific HR solution. But I get your point on, you know IT guys. I mean, persona wise, we focus on CFOs, VP of
Right.
finance, things like that. But I think, we are going towards Microsoft, just because it's already there. There's so much demand for that product, and in a lot of cases, they already have most of those tools. So we can take what we do today and kind of convert that into a Microsoft tech stack. What do you think? I mean, what's our go to market when we go to a Microsoft tech stack? Like, who do we focus on? Who do we target? Is it a much different play than we do today?
Well, I think, historically, we used to joke the last person we wanted in the room was the IT department, right? We always that was a no-no. I think it will change. I think IT is out there. I've recently, spoken with several VPs of IT that are out looking for tools to help automate processes internally. So I think that's been a shift, where I think historically they've only been sort of the gatekeeper, like things were brought to them, and then they would have to bless it. Is it going to sit on their network or not? I think that is evolving now. That IT is much more involved in going out and evaluating technology, and tools that can help an organization. And I think as we shift as an organization, I think we will start targeting IT folks, because again, it's a tool that they're currently using, and instead of bringing in additional applications, let's just expand and maximize that investment that they have made.
Yeah, so obviously targeting a different persona than we do today.
Yep.
The messaging is going to be a lot different. And I think we're primed to be able to pivot. And I think, being very um, fast and being able to turn with the market is something that I think we're great at. So, last question. Ultimately, I think this was a very unique thing that PIF did. So, we've always been a VAR system integrator, technology company, and a lot of the copier dealers, the BTA channel has always gone. They want to get into solutions. They know print volume is down, and they want to protect the base. So they're trying to sell solutions, and none of them really can. There's very
Right.
few that can, right? We went the other way.
Yeah.
We actually took on copiers. And the reason I think we did that, one, I think regionally there's a niche here, in the Northeast, New England. But I also think from a lead gen strategy, it's a good seeding strategy for us to win more technology deals. Just I mean, give me a couple examples. I think it's actually paying off. I mean, we now have a pretty big MIF, and we're selling more and more, and I'm seeing that cross pollination. But for a technology company to kind of go that way, it's kind of, somebody would say maybe that's the wrong direction, but it's working in our favor. And we're turning over the chessboard, so to speak, with that. Tell us how kind of that's helped us in the solution sales side.
Yeah, I'll give you one very good example just recently. So it was a quasi-state agency that was unhappy with their copier vendor, and I believe marketing uncovered the lead. And our well, I'll take a quick step back. We did have starts, fits and stops when we moved to selling hardware. It really took off, I think, when we sort of segment, and it's not a true segment, but we segmented the organization, and now we have a team that just focuses on hardware and copiers, right? And then we have my team that just focuses on, for the most part, software. There is some cross-pollination.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, it wasn't working when you couldn't focus, right?
Correct.
And now we can.
Now we can. There's true focus, right? So once we made that decision, that group has really taken off. So back to the example, I think it was a lead to go out. They were unhappy with their current vendor. We went in. It was a great win from a hardware perspective. I think it was 6 or 7 machines, and it was a good sized transaction. And then through the rep doing discovery, understood that there were document workflow challenges inside the organization, and they were unhappy, with the current storage solution they were using. So that turned into a software deal worth about $30,000 in software revenue and services. And then it's leading to another thing that we do is backfile conversion. So that initial copier deal also was a software deal, and now it's going to be probably a $250,000 backfile job. So just from selling, we would have never probably gone into that organization without that. So it has been, over the last 18 months, it's been a great strategy.
Very fruitful, yeah. And you know what? It's when you have an idea, and I know our president's from that kind of Rico Icon channel, and I think myself, you, and even Bill, our CRO, we were sitting there like, what? We're going to sell copiers?
Right. We're going backwards.
But the reality is it's working, and it's kind of a cool use case story on the industry, right? This copier industry, a lot of consolidation, a lot of dealers being bought by UBO and Visual and Flex and whatever. And a lot of these guys try to be solution sales, and they can't. And I think going the opposite direction is actually what the formula for success is.
It's a completely separate sale. I mean, I've done both, right? Early days, I sold MFPs and printers and copiers, and it's just a completely different sale. You're talking to different folks. I mean, our sell is truly, you have to be at the C level. Just our solutions are
versus the office manager for a copier, right?
Correct. Exactly right. So it's an entirely different conversation. When we talk about, nice to have and need to have, while they might not be a fan of the copier, every office needs one, right? So now you're going in and your value prop is completely different. Where what we're selling, they don't truly, we know they need it, but they don't know they need it, right? So it's getting them to understand that they need it. So it's a completely different sale. But no, I think it's been great for the organization.
Yeah, it's a unique kind of approach, I think. So. Yep. All right. Well, good. Hey, Jeff, thanks for being on. Again, everyone, please like and subscribe. You'll be seeing more automation in action weekly podcasts coming up with some industry experts. Thanks for attending today, and have a great day.
Thanks, Brent. Take care.
Thank you.